Now, when you say EPC installer, some guys watching this right now might be new solar dealers. They might not even know about solar, like a roofing contractor, or they might be an established solar sales organization. What does EPC stand for?
It's engineering, procurement, and construction. What can I do to make it easier for the sales guy who's sweating out in the field, easier to sell?
Take a look at that map behind me. That's where Robert is set up and functional. He runs his solar installs like a military machine. Started from my basement as a contractor and eventually grew it to 18 states and 173 million in sales. Oh yeah, baby. Hey guys, Anthony Delmedico live on a Speakeasy here with Robert Nefian with MyRoofSolar-EPC. That's right, he's an EPC installer. Well, you're a lot more than an EPC installer. You also do roofs. You're a roofing contractor historically. And we're here live today, guys, in North Fort Myers at the new SVG Speakeasy location. And interviewing Robert because he meets an interesting, much needed niche in the solar industry right now, which is on the install side. Everybody's talking about the solar sales organizations, how sexy it is to sell solar, but nobody ever talks about the install side. And I brought Robert in to really meet an EPC installer and talk about the challenges and the opportunities in the industry and on the street level of what he's dealing with as a EPC installer now in 7 states. Yeah. Based out of Dallas, now in 7 states.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So let me go over and turn it over to you, Robert. Before we get into all the nitty gritty, a little bit about you. When did you get into the install side? When did you start roofing contractor space, all that?
Yeah, no, born in Romania.
Romania?
Yeah. Moved here when I was 6. Moved to California. Stayed there for a while, and then went to Texas about the last 10 years and got into the roofing and the solar space and all that good stuff. Super excited. And
so you actually got into roofing first.
I did.
So you're no surprise there in Dallas. It's roofing contractor central with all the hailstorms and stuff. So you're very adverse, I'm sure, in storm restoration and hail.
Yeah, everything.
And so you did that your first 5 years, and then you bumped into solar about 5 years ago. Tell me a little bit what made you shift into that area as a roofing contractor.
Like everybody thinks, I think it's a perfect sort of relationship between the two. And I was also incredibly fascinated about the complexity that had to do with solar, like, the sun, and then it powers the house and sort of the dynamics behind that. And I was really intrigued about it. And then obviously it was just a really natural segue out of roofing. And now I'm in it. I started off doing sales. So
you started doing solar sales, add-on sales to the roof.
Yeah.
And then you ran across, I'm assuming what a lot of people run across, that there's some installation challenges on the install side of the industry of solar. Yeah. I'm sure you experienced a little bit of that.
That's exactly what happened. The installers we partnered up with, they didn't have enough options. They were taking too long. They weren't paying us right. They weren't paying us fast enough. Next thing I knew, my projects were in the pipeline for 8 months. And obviously as a business owner, I was like, okay, whatever, right? I had other streams of income, but it was super difficult for me to convince my sales guys that were doing roofing, because I started off a solar division, and I was like, hey guys, do this, right? These sort of 3 guys, I started off with just 3, and I said, hey, you guys do this full time. And I was thinking to myself, man, if I can't get paid as an owner, right, in a reasonable time, how am I going to get these guys excited? Mm-hmm. And that's when I realized, man, the industry just needs some good installers that are understanding of the sales cycle, that are understanding of how difficult it is to recruit and get good high quality sales reps, and what the effort is like to maintain them. Mm-hmm. And I said, great. A lot of installers, and they say, I'll get it done in 8-9 months. Correct, but that's not how the sales guy thinks. Mm-hmm. And that's when I realized I stopped doing inside sales for solar, and I started creating a program on the install side that sort of catered to just the average sales guy and catered to his psychology and the way he thought things should be, time-wise, money-wise, and all that in between. So we kept on, my goal is, how can I keep on doing the good quality work that all the big guys are doing, but at the same time cater to the psychology of the average sales guy that wants to get paid quick.
Now, when you say EPC installer, some guys watching this right now might be new solar dealers. They might not even know about solar, like a roofing contractor, Or they might be an established solar sales organization. What does EPC stand for?
It's engineering, procurement, and construction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because as an installer, you're really involved with all. You got the engineering, you got to do the site survey, you got procurement, which involves financing, like with GoodLeap and stuff like that. You got to procure materials, and then finally build the solar. So it's not just going out and throwing solar panels on a roof. That sounds easy. It's all the other stuff and the electrical license work and the battery chargers and all that kind of stuff. So.
And that's what I thought it was. I thought it was just, hey, we're slapping these panels, a 3-4 hour job, just like doing a
Throw
roof.
some glass on a roof.
1,000%.
It's a little more involved.
Yeah, I know there's a ton of checkpoints. There's electrical, structural engineers involved. There's city inspectors. There's the city inspectors that do the paperwork, just like the field adjuster, right? That just sort of takes pictures, analyzes. Then there's the actual desk adjuster equivalent, right? Or the city inspector, the big guy. Then you got the utility company you got to deal with. I mean, there's so many checkpoints.
So you're based out of Dallas, Texas, correct?
Yeah.
And you have, I'm trying to remember the states. You got Oklahoma, Missouri,
Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, obviously, Kentucky, Kansas.
Missouri,
and Louisiana, So it's about 7 states, and we're right now in the process of getting Nevada and Florida live.
And each state requires its own electrical license to be set up and to start getting set up as a installer, correct?
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, we have dedicated staff that handle each state just from the permitting aspect, dedicated staff that handle each state just from the permission to operate or utility aspect. I mean, there's just so much homework.
So even in the wild west of Texas, where they claim to be non-licensed, non-inspections, you have somewhat complicated inspections.
On the utility side, at the very minimum, right? And then you still have to get the electrical and the structural stamps and all that jazz. So, I mean, there's paperwork this thick, and roofing, that was the beautiful thing. It was a breeze, right? We do the roof and whatnot.
In Texas it was. In Florida,
and I know,
a lot of inspections, a lot of paperwork.
I know you had that. But then, I was expecting sort of a similar transition. And then when I realized how difficult it was, it started making sense why all these other big companies were making mistakes. I was like, now it makes sense, right? So we designed sort of a more boutique model. Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, I sold SVG Solar, and a lot of guys watching this right now, even my former business partner, know I sold that, and they renamed it with a company that wanted to take it to a new level. And one of the reasons I spun off SVG Solar from SVG was because our install side couldn't keep up with the volume.
Sure.
We used Titan and a number of other players. Titan was one of the largest installers in America, the last several years, top 10, top 20, but they ran into some production, like any large company growing, they ran into some production issues, some lead times, or some of those installs are, 6 to 9 months out.
Oh yeah.
And inflation goes up and interest rates change and things happen. And so rather than, tarnish the SVG name with things I couldn't control, if you can't control the install channel, you really can't control how do you respond to your clients, which were established roofing contractors. Right. So I decided to spin that off. And I think I've always felt like over the last year that there needs to be more emphasis or more entrepreneurs like you, especially guys that came from the roofing contracting space, because you have a more understanding, let's say, than a typical solar installer about roof warranties, about, touching or manipulating that type of material and how that might affect a leak later on, where some solar installers may not have quite the same amount of experience. So that's another thing, is there's not a lot of roofing contractors that are installing solar. There's solar installing companies out there, but I just had a feeling several months ago there's an abundance of solar sales organizations. There's a lot of young guys running around that live in their mom's basement selling solar off bicycles right now. Thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of them. But on the install side, there's definitely a bottleneck, and from talking to you, it's because there's a lot of challenges, and it's a tough area to break into.
No, you're 100% right, and selling solar is an incredible thing, and we have to capitalize on it. That's sort of the thing. I'm excited about this because we're at a really, really special time, and we talked about this, about the statistics and sort of the trends, right, and what solar's looking like. I mean, even if we look back 5 years ago, everything's changing and it's becoming super, super exciting. And I think that there's also a cap on it. I can't say that in 100 years, solar's gonna be what it is today, right? So we gotta bridge the gap, and it's super, super exciting on the sales side. And, but obviously, how can you be motivated to sell something when the delivery is either going to happen slowly or won't happen at all.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where we come into place.
Well, I think whenever you've got solar's been a very high growth industry the last 10 years. In the last 3 alone, I think 2021, 167 billion. This is global.
Yep.
2022, 234 billion. In 2023, 375 billion is expected.
Yeah.
The U.S. solar market's growing at 20% a year minimum, and they say in 5 years it's going to triple. So in 2020, it's going to triple from where it's at right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's driven by those same hungry, aggressive, entrepreneurial solar sales organizations, independent contractors, working Zoom calls. You can now sell solar from California to a guy in New York on a Zoom call using solo technology and providing a utility savings option for somebody all by Zoom. And that really blew up during COVID.
Yeah.
And so now guys are learning how to sell solar by Zoom in multiple states.
Yeah.
What hasn't caught up, guys, I think some of you guys watching this know, is the install side, because it's not as fun to go get crews set up, get licensed, deal with all the utility companies, and really put the liability you got to take on as a solar installer to become the next Titan.
Yeah.
And I told you some of the biggest companies out there are experiencing hiccups right now because of the rising inflation rates and interest rates, because they're growing, because these solar sales orgs are pushing so much solar through these financial institutions. The install side is just not caught up yet. What say you?
Yeah. No, it's you couldn't be more right. And that's exactly sort of the issue. Is on the install side, it's complicated. It's very, very complicated.
And each state's different.
And every state is different. And and as I mentioned, I've helped, right, or I've tried to help dozens of people in the past. We have that affiliate program I mentioned to you about, right? And I've tried.
You said you're even willing down the road here to help maybe if you're an upcoming installer, you're thinking about going down that road. Now you have a preference for roofing contractors,
Sure.
but because you come from that space, because you know that they know some basics about production, but you might even offer an affiliate training program, like a partnership or franchise program down the road.
We've done it, right? We've done it to over 12, right, people, over 12 companies. And it's an incredible program. I spent a lot of time in the development, all that jazz, and obviously we can go into more details on that another day. But point of the matter is once they caught a taste of the install side, they were like, hey, just take me back to sales. Luckily, right, and I had the same thing the first year, but luckily now, year number 4 and year number 5, doing the install side, now I know it, right? I mean, it's easy. I have all the 50 employees in place. Everybody knows exactly what they're doing. They're walking into the office. But man, if I knew the amount of anguish and toil and sort of mental stress that took, those first 2-3 years to get to where I'm at today, I just say, hey man, I would much rather take the 20% that we do, profit-wise, on the deal on the install side, because really we capitalize based on volume. And I say I'd much rather stick with the 70-80% in money that I'm getting just by doing the sale than plug in to doing the install side. But the beautiful thing right now is the program is really catered towards plugging in. It's almost like a relay race, right? You're not sprinting from 0 to 100. We're already sprinting, right? Just give us the baton. We'll take it. The majority of our sales orgs, even if they don't know much about the sales side, they just give us the deal. All they have to do is take about 10 pictures, give us the deal. Our back-end side takes the entire process. There's no roofing, hey, take additional pictures. The supplemental, the change order, the project form, all that jazz, meeting the adjuster, spending 5-6 hours, 7 hours, 5 visits, right, over the life of the project. None of that. That's the beauty, and that's the reason why I'm so excited about our partners on the roofing side, because they just don't know how easy this thing is, especially when you come from that roofing background where you're so inundated and you're so close with your client on a daily and weekly basis. That's why I'm so excited, to share this with our roofing side.
Yeah, when we launched SVG Solar, we only went after established roofing contractors and introduced the idea of solar because they already have a pipeline. They already got a pipeline of past 3,000 jobs, or 20,000 jobs, and they're on jobs every day. It's a natural for them to introduce solar to their customers. And when we found out that, solar solves problems like deductibles and roof upgrades, a great opportunity for add-on financing, that's really when it triggered for me. And I thought, wow, I didn't know that. It's not just about the utility. There's some people here in Florida, for example, we're in Southwest Florida where Hurricane Ian hit. We're in a Cat 4 region right now. This property was hit with Cat 4. there's people here as we approach the recession that don't have an extra 15, 20 grand. They might live in a nice home, but they don't have an extra 15, 20 grand sitting around where if they put solar on, they can hit that add-on financing button and wipe out that $15,000 deductible that goes to their new roof.
And think about it. You got so many, sort of, again, knowing the roofing background, knowing what it's like to sell the roofs and sort of the objections that we would hear, we can even design, for example, in a homeowner that has a terrible roof and they don't want to invest the money to do anything about it right now, we can design a ground mount system. We can segue the roof. Yeah, I've heard, sort of objections in the field of, hey, Rob, hey, John, I'm not doing anything solar related. I don't care how much money it's saving until I have enough money to fix my fence. Well, we do that, right? That's the beautiful thing about it. We can do $2,000, right, to fix a fence. No problem. Let's get that objection over with.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about our program.
And I think that's really when the contracting market on the roofing and even the HVAC side, guys started realizing that add-on financing can pay for their trade.
Oh, yeah.
Which now they're realizing that the solar financing, and it moves pretty quick. I mean, use GoodLeap. Use GoodLeap as a channel.
About
600 plus credit score. I mean, I think that approval happens in 5 minutes.
Oh,
no income verification. I mean, it's the fastest moving of money I've ever seen for a homeowner is on the solar financing.
And we have financial partners that approve up to $150,000 within a matter of like 60 seconds. I mean, you just cannot beat that. There's no bank. There's no, hey, let me call you back tomorrow. I'm going to go check with my, with my small local bank. None of that. 60 seconds. And we even right now, as a matter of fact, funny enough, we just rolled out a new program with a new financial program partner, right? They only require the date of birth, right? No social, no TIN, absolutely.
As long as you own the house.
Yeah, exactly. 1,000% just the birthday, right? It's beautiful, beautiful.
Well, guys, look behind me. Check out these 7 states on the map. It's nice. I see that you're staying in that Southwest region. I'm assuming that's for management and control.
Yeah.
So you can really control your ground operations in that region.
Yeah, 1,000%. We want to grow sort of with neighboring states, right? With states that we share.
What state's next on the horizon out here?
So Nevada and Florida. Okay. And I know that's sort of outside of my traditional business model, which is growing, state by state, neighboring state by neighboring state. But, just got, a few sales orgs that just love working with us here in Texas and Oklahoma. And they actually expanded to Nevada and Florida. There's some really cool things happening in those states. And they're like, hey, can you install over there? And that's another beautiful thing about the boutique model we have is if we have a sales organization that has proven to us that they're consistent. I don't need 100 deals a month from a sales org. But if they can be consistent, give us 5 to 10. I'd be crazy if they give me a request, hey, Rob, we got this incredible database out in New Mexico. Can you start that for us? I'd say, hey, give me a couple of months and let me work on that with you. And that's the beautiful thing about the size and the boutique model that we carry is it's really tailored towards the sales guy, the guy out in the field, because the guy in the field is the guy that's making both the sales org, the dealer, whatever you want to call it, and myself, money. That's really the driving force of a company. And that's what I decided to say, hey, when I start this company, I'm going to tailor it around the sales guy, enough around me or my staff and all that jazz. No, what can I do to make it easier for the sales guy who's sweating out in the field, easier to sell? Right?
Tell me, because I had a somewhat bad experience with some of the biggest installers in the nation.
Yeah.
Titan being one of them, just because they got so big, they got slow.
Yeah.
Which kind of affected you. It affects your brand. On the streets, it does affect your brand, and you really can't control their quality.
Yeah.
You're not the installer. So I also selected some smaller guys when I was having problems with them in certain states, and probably didn't do all my due diligence and grabbed somebody that had the license off the that seemed like they could do it. Had a bad experience there where they didn't pay on time or they did something janky. So it's like you're literally out there as some of these solar sales organizations watching this or roofing contractors going solar.
Yeah.
They're going to, sometimes they just sign up who's there because it's who's there and it makes sense.
Yeah.
And they don't realize there's a lot of thought that needs to go with it. Tell me 3 things about you as an EPC installer that might be different, better, faster, stronger than some of the other EPC installers out there. What makes you different?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great question, man. So one of the big things for us is we pay at glass installation in full. There's no PTO. There's none of that. Hey, you're carrying over a 20% balance until permission to operate happens. No, it's right. It's at glass install. You get paid 100%. We also do some really cool things.
Excuse me, another question. What about final permitting? So final permitting, you'll pay before final permitting?
Well, no. So before final inspection.
Okay.
So obviously we're going to pull our permits. We're going to make sure everything is approved before we slap on the glass and do the electrical work. However, the second that glass hits the roof, right, that installation happens, we pay the very next Friday in full.
Okay.
Right, and if there's, obviously we also work, depending on volume and some other cool things, we can also work an upfront, right, a little monetary upfront. But no matter what, whether you already got an upfront or not, you're getting 100% of your commission at glass installation the Friday after. So that's a really, really big.
You're not doing any
thing.
weird retainers over time.
No,
or
no,
okay.
none of that, none of that. And then obviously, we're also pushing most installations in 3 to 4 weeks. We really, whenever we penetrate a new market, we do a lot of homework. We become really buddy with sort of the city inspectors, the offices over there. We actually, you know, if we're entering a new market, we'll fly down our GM or one of our designers or journeyman or even a master electrician. They'll do a little meet and greet with the city. We want to make sure that whenever we get into a new market, again, we're just passing on the baton. We're not starting a fresh sprint from scratch. And that's one of the things that has really, really helped us and has enabled us to get these permits incredibly fast and stick to that 3 to 4
Well,
week
3 to 4
turnaround
weeks
times.
incredible
It's
because
huge.
we used to wait 3, 4, 5 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
And I mean, if it's outside of city limits, it's even faster. We also, you know, one of our biggest distributors is a mile down the road. That's also something that helps. Was we bought all of our warehouses close to where our distribution partners were.
Well, that's smart.
As a strategy, right, to make sure that we're getting that material quick. If there's an issue, boom, it's down the road. No traffic. No, hey, is it in stock? Is it not? It's right down the road. Obviously, so the quick turnaround time, commission fully paid at glass, and also the communication aspect is we have about. Even though we could probably wing it with 4 or 5 departments, we have over 10 departments that pertain to the actual process, right? So everybody gets a dedicated account manager. We have a customer service department that checks in with the customer every single week, even if there's no update. We want to make sure that the customer is being discussed to directly. So on the roofing side, the sales guy handles everything, right? Communication. The second he stops communicating, he's frowned upon. And that's okay. That's a different model. I used to do the same thing with my guys. The second I'd get a customer complaint, I didn't have a customer service department in roofing. I'd yell at the guy, yeah, come on, man, what are you doing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But over here on the solar side is we literally have a department for every single thing that you can possibly think about. And I remember when I was, you know, when I was trying to be smart, right? When I started the whole really going mainstream with the EPC side, I'd make phone calls, right? And I'd ask different EPCs, hey, I got a sales org. I'm trying to run some, some deals to you guys. What do you guys offer as part of the package? Is it just a red line, or do you guys offer other bells and whistles? And I said, well, yeah, here's your red line, but if you want customer service, if you want somebody to communicate with your customer, it's 20, 30 cents more per deal. We do everything included, right, as part of our packages.
Nice.
So those are some of the unique things about us, and obviously I can keep on talking about this, but I'll get
3 to 4 weeks, amazing.
Yeah.
I'd have been happy with, 3 months.
Yeah.
Just 6 months going.
It's the size too, right? It's the size. Great size, very healthy size. I can't promise that whenever, and again, I don't want to talk bad about anybody, but when I'm doing 3,000, 4,000 installs a month, I might run into the same hiccups. But right now, at this moment in time, I've heard the feedback. It's
And
sort
you
of
also
ideal
see that?
size.
Do you also see an inherent need out there for entrepreneurs like you to move into this space?
Correct, and that's why we created the affiliate program.
Yeah.
Right, and again, most of the people end up, I'm not going to lie to you, right? It's like a boot camp, right? You were in the Army, you know what a boot camp is. It's beautiful, it's exciting, right? But then by the time you near the end of it, you're like, I don't know if this is for me, right?
Yeah.
Same thing over here. So a lot of our guys.
Well, if you like building complicated roofs in somewhere like the state of Florida, which is very complicated, you might like building solar. But most guys come here and they start building roofs, and they go back to the state they came from because it's like China versus America. It's just totally different.
But yeah, we have the affiliate program. As I said, that's something that's
great
down the road. Yeah.
So you don't even view other upcoming installers as competition. You view them as potential collaborators because you see the need.
I would really sort of be contradicting sort of our company mission statement, right? Which is we just need to make the industry better, right? We just need to make it better. We need to get these homeowners operational. We need to get these people paid, the sales guys paid, right? So, I mean, if there's another guy that comes out and he's able to service clients as good as my company can, fantastic. We'll be partners. We'll go out to lunch and we'll shoot over ideas.
When you're talking about a pie, There's always enough. If people work together, there's always enough for a slice for everyone.
Yeah, there's
Kind of reminds me of this pig farm this guy sold when he first launched SVG Solar, a relatively newer roofing contractor, a salesman. He was out in the middle of nowhere, I think in South Carolina, and he sold farms. Typically that was his thing. He sold some big pig farm solar. It's a huge commercial solar. I mean, it's like $30-40 million.
Yeah.
Well, we are a new solar company in the commercial EPC installer or sales organization that told us they could do solar. Come to find out later, they couldn't.
Right.
And they were subbing it or finding people off the street. Yeah. And the deal fell apart because we could not find the installer to actually put a deal together, a project plan. And this is after getting approved for financing, mind you. So you can imagine, and that's when I realized there's a huge hiccup of I think there's fiefdoms in any industry, and I think some of these big installers and stuff, they think, that's my fiefdom. I'm going to keep my little thing to myself, and da-da-da. What's really an opportunity when the industry's growing like this, you really have an opportunity where those fiefdoms can start viewing themselves as collaborators like you do, maybe even training some of them in because they need the training, and now all of a sudden you can help be involved in a pig farm in South Carolina with boots on the ground of an affiliate that you trained or touched, and maybe someone else over here sold it. And when people start thinking like that, that's when the industry's going to blow up.
Oh, 100%. For example, solar is huge in Hawaii, right? Solar is huge in Puerto Rico. I don't want to go right to Hawaii or Puerto Rico. I'm afraid
Hawaii's not bad.
Well, I know, but I'm afraid if I go, I'm not going to do anything else, right? Other than hang out on the beach. But I don't want to travel all that distance, and that's sort of the purpose behind the affiliate program is, hey, help me out in this industry as well. If I need help, I don't know if that's that I'm sure that's at one point going to come, to happen. But most importantly is, hey, dude, you want to keep my same sort of vision, but I don't want to handle New York. I don't want to handle Maine. I don't want to handle Rhode Island. So
don't need to be everywhere and service everybody if you got the right affiliates.
And another thing is that I wanted to touch upon is we maintain maximum control over our production side, especially on the field, because everything that we do is with W-2 employees, right? And that's the beautiful thing about it. None of it is 1099. There's no, right? We all know roofing, right? None of it is, hey man, can you help me out, right? I don't know who else to get. Everything is carefully planned 2 weeks in advance. The schedules are done to a T. A crew is dispatched. A phone call is made. The customer knows the exact updated ETA. We might have told him, a week ago, hey, it's going to be Monday between 8 and 10 a.m. That morning we call them, hey, it's actually going to be 9:30. And we know that, and we have that utmost control because they're W-2. And that's something you just can't do it. It's very costly. It's very annoying. You can't do it overnight, right? Having a team, an army of W-2 employees on the field and in-house is not the easiest thing, right? It takes time, but that's the only way to do it right, and that's the only way to make it happen fast.
I like it. One of the, when I met Robert, guys, a couple years back, one of the things I noticed about him in business, now he's a fun guy, but in business, he's a little OCD, meaning attention to detail. And when you're dealing with production, whether it's roofs or solar or anything complicated, sometimes it's good to have a little left brain OCD in your blood because you can keep a lot of stuff organized that's otherwise would be chaos. And that's why I invited you on here, man, because I think, I really think that the industry needs more guys like you on the install side. Everybody's talking about this, the solar sales side. You just hear very little about the install side, and really, I think some of these guys, especially in those states behind us, need to connect with you to get you in their industry Rolodex as an installer and try you on a few jobs, and then we'll watch you as you grow here in these other states, and and keep up with you and help folks understand where you're at, because you're not, your install side is actually growing bigger than your roofing contracting install side.
Oh yeah.
And now you've completely you pretty much collapsed your solar sales side now, and you're like, man, you're jumping full into the install side, and I like that because that's what the industry needs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, as I said, we on the solar sales side, we had to create a separate team, and that's also we have a program as well. Part of what our account managers do is they actually assist roofing companies that want to get in the space. They're like, hey, dude, what's the first step, right? And we've partnered with a bunch of different softwares, like Solo and whatnot, right? That we pay a very, very high premium. And you know, we found a huge worth in that, right? We teach people, we train them, we show them how easy it is, and they get a dedicated
So you provide
account
the
manager.
solo complimentary?
We do, yeah. Everything is free of charge. Yeah. And, you know, as you know, I mean, that cost me, you know, $30 per proposal. But again, that's such a high value. And I have other options which are even free. But because of how easy it is, even for the new guy that got 30 minutes worth of training to handle an appointment and close it using the solo software, you can't beat that kind of value.
Solo guys, for you guys watch this right now that might not know, it's like a digital proposal the homeowner sees at the kitchen table or by Zoom.
Yeah.
And I've seen it done many times in my own solar sales organization the last couple of years. It really made a complicated subject like utility analysis, all that really easy in the tax deduction for Mrs. Smith to understand. And I think it had I think that program had a huge impact on solar growing.
Yeah.
Because you're taking a complicated subject that used to be done by napkins and stuff like that 10, 15 years ago. Now it's a visually appealing experience at the kitchen table. And so to get that in your hands for, you know, at complimentary from an installer is a nice deal when you don't have to pay for those proposals, because I believe they have everything to do with closing that deal at the kitchen table.
They do. They do. And they have that little, I don't know if you remember, but there's that hamburger menu on the right-hand side where you can just, because everybody's asking, hey, how do I build the deal? Right? And it's almost like, oh, you see a ridge vent, you click for the ridge vent. Of course, this is all in solar terminology, but it's really just that easy, right? It talks about every little adder over there, the main panel upgrade, you just click it over there, it alternates, right? It changes the price, and boom, it gives you a monthly, and then it obviously changes based on the finance company. And the fact that obviously we have 5 financial partners makes us really, really competitive in the space as opposed to another sales organization that's over there knocking doors. And I don't know if I told you this, but we also, what we do with all of our roofing partners is, even though we are a roofing company and we have the ability to do things at cost very, very cheap, right? We partner, and on all of our solar deals, we actually let the roofing company that signed the solar deal, we give them the roof. They tell us the price and they do the work. We don't care about profitability right there, right? So that's the beautiful thing about
so you give deals back to your,
I give deals back
to your roofing contractors and solar,
Let's all win. That's kind of the thing that I do, right? And that's one of the things that the industry is missing. Everybody wants to do it in-house, right? Maximum profitability. All I care about in these partnerships is, hey, the solar side, let me handle your solar side. If you want to partner on the roofing side, even if we factor it into the loan, I'll still let you do the work.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a really cool thing that we're doing.
Well, you know, the U.S. market here is tripling in the next 5 years, guys, in solar. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that's growing rapidly. If you're into solar sales as an individual or an organization, and you're looking for, you know, you might not replace your EPC installer, but you should always be adding, just like in a roofing cruise, to put all your business with one roofing crew. And I made that mistake as an early sales organization in solar. I put all my eggs in one basket with a big company. What I should have done is evaluated 3 or 4 companies, kept the big company, but kept 2 or 3 in there to start mixing in and understanding how to fill in the gaps, so to say, when a big company couldn't. And so I know guys watching this, right, are in a similar situation. They might not even have somebody to go to. So again, guys, take a look at that map behind me. That's where Robert is set up and functional. He runs his solar installs like a military machine.
That's right, man.
Attention to detail, OCD. He gets the job done in 3 to 4 weeks. Thanks for coming on the Speakeasy today. Booyah, baby. See you soon.
Appreciate it, man.